thank you so much for joining us, making time in your busy schedule to join us at the Microsoft Store. We'll have time for audience questions at the end, so audience, be ready with your questions when the time comes. But I just wanted to start firstly with some questions which touch on some of the themes that we've been discussing today. So when it comes to cycling, I think people will always remember, sort of might like it or might not, but your intense competition with Australia's Anna Meares. How did you manage to keep an eye on the competition while also constantly pushing yourself and also the team around you to evolve in order to remain competitive?
So it was always a really interesting thing that there was this fierce rivalry between myself and Anna Meares. We were both two females at the very top of the sport in that particular discipline. So we met on many occasions and it was usually like, we were so close. I mean, sometimes, millimeters between our performances. I tried to, more than anything, focus on what I was doing and being led very much by the data analysts and everybody that knew me and how my body responds to training towards objectives, and trying not too much to focus on her. So although our rivalries seemed very close, I was very much, I'm going to tread my own path here, because every single physical human will train differently, will respond to training differently, will find some things useful and some things not so useful. And she's a very different machine to me. I know how she used to train because quite a lot of the coaches have swapped between countries and I've seen the training programs. So for me, it was more like being focused and not being distracted by what other people are doing. I knew the performance I needed to produce from a data model before I got there. And all I needed to know is all of the things I can do to try and make that happen. So it was a bit, the blinkers were on.
So you've mentioned data already and the importance of those data models. How much, obviously, did technology, data, and also particularly the value of performance data enable you to keep improving and also to stay ahead of the competition?
Well, I love training and I also really love data, because people can be, oh, you look really great out there today. And I'm like, I don't really care. What did the numbers say? Because I wanted the truth. I wanted like the gritty details. If it was good or bad, I didn't mind. I wanted to know exactly where I was at. We had power meters within the cranks on our bikes, which were developed especially by McLaren, so that they didn't disrupt airflow. So every single effort on the track, we had speed, cadence, power that was analysed by data analysts. So we had a team of people working behind the scenes to try and work out what the performance would look like. So there was always plenty of numbers to crunch, and obviously the humidity, the temperature, the air pressure all has an impact on speed. All these things were added to the format, to every single detail, your exact body weight, your drag coefficient, so many hours spent in a wind tunnel working exactly like, if I just squeeze my neck down like that much more, does that make a difference? Trying to work out precisely all the little areas that could be calculated. So you had a very clear picture of the objective. It's some people, and there's a lot of sport that may seem like an art form. In terms of cycling, we're full of very, very techie, nerdy people who like to know all the data. It's all about the data, and we stick to it because it's fairly controlled in many aspects in a velodrome, especially. We can do that, so we used it to the best of our ability. And a lot of
so that resonates with people.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my performance at the Olympics had been projected about 6 months before what I needed to do, estimating the projection of people's improvement over time, given a certain air pressure, temperature, my body weight. We could calculate exactly between a tenth of a second what time I was going to produce. So it was really, really accurate. And reassuring as well. Can I just say, really reassuring when you've been given really reliable data and knowing that is, and it being proved day in, day out, thinking, I can actually do this. This could actually happen. And that's it's a wonderful feeling.
That is, but that also must come with, that sort of certainty must come with an awful lot of pressure, human pressure, to then perform.
I can still mess it up. Still look over the wrong shoulder. Yeah.
So what key advice would you give a team when they're faced with challenges and need to rise to them?
Well, I mean, only from my experience as an athlete, and I'm sure most businesses do this in every aspect, is, you know, you take your you kind of create your perfect goal, the scenario, your objective, and then you work back. How do we do that in every single step? So every training cycle, what we can add to it. At the same time, trying to look at every single aspect, whether it's sleep, nutrition. I mean, you know, our beds were prescribed to us depending on our sleeping position. Sleep, recovery, nutrition, training, everything we could possibly control, we did. And we just broke it down into blocks. Because when someone says, I want to win a gold medal at the Olympics, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, we'll try. It's, you know, there's a lot of variables involved. I mean, you could just get a cold or stub your toe or something ridiculous in the run-up. But just breaking it down and also just being totally committed to the process. We all have good and bad days, and some days where I'd go into training and I'd be like, oh, I'm on fire, this is brilliant. And other days where I'd just be like dragging myself to the gym going, one set at a time, I'll do this one set, and everything aches. But I think that's just being able to recognize that in yourself and go, but today is going to be the best day I can possibly make it on this journey, and that's what I can control. So controlling the controllables in many ways, and just being really determined. Just keep, like, for me, when things are hard, it's like I just look up at that goal and think, I want it so bad. And the idea of losing out on it hurts me so much that I will just keep going.
I think controlling the controllables and also determination are good advice for all of us, definitely. So we've touched on anticipation and pressure. Is there anything else that sort of helped you manage that pressure?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't have wished going in as reigning Olympic and world champion into a home Olympics on my worst enemy, quite frankly, because that is a lot of pressure and something that you can't necessarily force to happen. But for me, I did a lot of work to try and find ways to alleviate that kind of feeling, of expectation and anxiety. And I had my own personal ways of dealing with it. I mean, I had like a 5-step simple rules, and things started to get a little bit out of hand. I'd be like, bring myself back to, I know what works for me. Number one rule in my world, don't beat yourself up. Because, do you know what, there's plenty of people around there that will do that for you. So the last person that should be doing that is you. Like, be your biggest champion. It's hard. Oh my gosh, it's hard when you're a perfectionist, but don't beat yourself up. Always find the positives in any situation. And let's face it, everyone goes, oh, but you win so many races. But I was like, I have lost a lot more than I've ever won. But we don't talk about those so much. But yes, like, there's always a positive, even when you really mess up and you're like, I learned so much from that and I'll never do it again. You have to look at the positives. My third rule was know that I have the tools, or that I am in the vicinity with someone else who has the tools that can help me sort this problem out. There's always someone. And do you know what? We get to a point where we really want to do everything ourselves sometimes, and actually just outsourcing somebody who is an expert and saying, can you help me with this? Is a way to alleviate so much pressure and expectation. And then, another one was to get into the helicopter, just get a bit of perspective on the situation. I'm riding round a wooden bowl on a bike with one gear and no brakes. I'm not saving lives, and nobody's going to die today. It seems quite crazy, but it's true. I'm in the arena of entertainment. It's a brutal side of entertainment because I commit everything. I sacrifice a lot for it, and it means a lot to me. But I am in the world of entertainment and having to sort of remember these things. And these are things for me when you could feel the pressure and anxiety coming up. You just bring it down and go, I know wholeheartedly I'm going to go in and give it 100% because I'm only capable of doing that. And what will be at the end of the day. And I will get through it. And I will go on tomorrow and find another exciting challenge to take on, because that's just who I am. I trust that in myself.
Well, that is 5 fabulous pieces of advice that I will definitely be taking on board. So, I mean, you had success at achieving your goals, and then obviously sometimes, as you've mentioned, falling short of them. Not often, sometimes.
I've been a time. Sure, I failed a lot.
How did you motivate yourself when things haven't gone? Or how do you continue to motivate yourself when things don't go according to plan?
I think when your trajectory in life is like this, you know there's going to be a bit of this along the way. And hey, I have had some absolute shockers, but then I've also had some incredible highs, and I'm very grateful for that. So I think it's like having an understanding that nothing is necessarily linear in human performance. We'd love it to be, but it's not. So for me, it was all about training. We went back to the drawing board. I look at the numbers, we refocus, we reset, we move on. That's what we do, because that's within my power and ability to do that. So and actually sometimes some of the biggest mistakes I've made in competitions and things like that have been some of the most motivating factors. And quite often the pain of missing out or losing out is what you need to become better, stronger, more determined than you were before. And I see that a lot with young athletes that I work with and coach sometimes, is at the final stage when they're so close to success, they just take their foot off the gas for a moment, and then they're like, oh, and I was like, use that. I'm hoping it feels really bad, because that is an incredibly important lesson that you have to embrace in life, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, post-retirement from professional cycling, you've embarked on many challenges. I'm sure the audience sitting here today are familiar with some or all of them. SAS, Who Dares Win, taking on Everest. What's kind of helped you adapt to these new challenges post-retirement?
Well, and also not the fact that I became an amateur jockey in between. Yeah, just because. And rode at Cheltenham Festival, which is probably one of the most exciting things we've ever done. Do you know, it's the same mentality that I will always give something my best, and I will deal with the consequences, whatever it may be. But I know I'll go with the right attitude. And I'm quite courageous, I'd say. It's not a word that I used in my youth, but it's a word I love so much. Courage. When somebody says you're courageous, the first time someone said, oh, you're very courageous, it was a horse riding coach, and he was teaching me to jump national hunt fences. And because, you know, obviously a woman of 34 cannot become an amateur jockey when she hasn't ridden a horse before, ever. That's impossible. Nobody can do that. And I sort of tried on the word courageous, and I was like, oh, I quite like the way that feels. I've never really thought of myself that way. But the greatest thing about that one word, it will change your attitude. You don't have to deserve it. You don't have to own it, like earn it. You don't have to be born with it. If you want to have courage, you can just take it if you want it. Like, it's a mindset. Just be courageous. And that is my kind of, the way I approach everything. If somebody was like abseil down that, I'm like, oh, it's quite steep, but hey, I'm going to do it. This is a great opportunity. Let's go. Like, I just kind of want to live my life in that way, and I don't want to have fear of missing out. I just really want to give it a go, give it my best shot, whatever that may be. Yeah, and with horses, you send your heart first and the horse will follow. So this is, you have to be pretty brave.
That's true. And you're still riding?
Yes, still got 2 horses. Not racing, unfortunately. I can't afford to, annoyingly, but yeah. I'm still riding, still got racehorses at home.
So whether it's a business, kind of personal or sporting context, people often default to sort of we can't or I can't. So what's your advice to anyone here who feels that?
I would say if someone said to me I can't or we can't, I'd be like, why? Because it usually stems from someone else saying it can't be possible, an external influence or a belief system or a culture that's kind of led you to believe that you can only go like this way. And I spent my whole life avoiding everybody's expectation of me in many ways, to a lot of raised eyebrows a lot of the time. But I just think you've got to ask why. Because if it doesn't stem from within you, there's absolutely no reason why you can't give it a go. Like, the core of that is, do you just want to make it work. Like, give it a go. It must, dream big. I think it's fear of failure a lot of the time that people think, oh, I can't, we can't. Failure is a great thing sometimes. I think I've just got to take the opportunities when they come. Be confident, have courage, do it. Do it.
So you've mentioned that you have horses. What else are you up to nowadays? What is keeping you busy?
I've done a little bit of travel writing recently, so exercising my brain, which has been quite interesting. I teach kids how to ride, actually, is one of the cool things I do at the moment. I volunteer for a program that teaches kids from challenging social backgrounds to ride ponies, very disobedient ponies, and it's actually really good fun. And apparently I'm the nicest teacher, so I really enjoy it, because it's all about building confidence and resilience, because it's dangerous. And I think a lot of sports that have an element of danger, you have to push yourself to a place, of believing in what you're doing. You can't, it's so big. I don't know, I don't like it. It's going too fast. And it's like, no, you're in control. Be as confident, be assertive, be kind, and it will respond. And I think building those qualities with young people has been really fun. It doesn't always go to plan, but it's a really fun challenge for me, something a bit different.
And what's the organisation?
It's called Changing Lives, yeah. So it's just like, it's really good fun. I really enjoy it.
I think we're just going to leave on a final one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I mean, I've been given a lot of advice because people love to give me advice, generally. Don't become a jockey. Oh, you haven't got the you haven't got the physical or the mental ability to be a champion. Thanks for that. The best piece of advice I've ever been given is you be you, which sounds, pretty wishy-washy, I guess. But it's so easy to try and people will tell you to do this and do it this way, and your life's got to be like this, and then this happens, and that's where you end up. But you've got to tread your own path, whatever that may be. And it might be completely against the grain, and that's okay. I'm very accepting of that now. I've got to a certain age where I'm like, I'm going this way, and I don't care if women of my age should be doing it or not. I don't care. I think you be you is one of the most, believe in what you want to believe in and attack it full force, because you only get to live once, so you might as well embrace it.
Wow, what a brilliant note to finish on. Thank you again, Victoria.
Thanks for having me.